This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of DocNJock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. A huge show today. Super Bowl fallout. What does it mean for the Detroit Lions? I think everybody's realizing over the last 2 years, this side of the football, very key. Pistons, another brawl. I think the more that Isaiah Stewart plays for the Detroit Pistons, the more the fans fall in love with him. Ready to throw down with ice on his knees? We'll talk all about it. We don't know the level of the suspension just yet, but we know probably it's going to be in the neighborhood of multiple games. But is he the ultimate teammate? Is this wrong? We'll talk all about it, and then we'll finish with Tariq Skubal. The Tigers, as you guys are listening to this, are starting spring training, but it's interesting. Has Scott Harris redeemed himself? Did he make more of a mess? Or what's going on with the Detroit Tigers? What does it mean that they're allocating money to pitching? Does defense and pitching actually win championships? We'll talk all about it, because I think everybody felt like that the Super Bowl was one big wet fart. And it sucked because we all knew it, but when you watch it, I know I love defense, but you do want at least 1 or 2 touchdowns before the fourth quarter. Oh my God, it was tough. And then for everybody making it political about a halftime show, either you liked it or you didn't. I didn't think it'd have to be all, well, we got to go here and watch it and we got to make it all of an issue. So it just made it so that, you know, football to me is an escape, especially the Super Bowl. You eat, you drink, you hang out with people, you tell jokes. And everybody just online, at least, was all up, had their panties all up in a bunch, and the game was boring. So you're just like, ugh. And then, you know, because for me, just on the side note, I played all of one square. And you know what square I got? Seahawks 6, Patriots 2. So I open it like 3 hours before the game. I'm like, I got 6-2. I got no chance to win a square in the history of Everdom. So I go, I have a good time, watch the game. It's football, but yeah, I did kind of feel like, just like everything else, it was just a game that just sucked, and it was just kind of a damper to end the season. But as always, which is good, is that we can always relate it to how can we learn and glean what the Seahawks did that the Lions could take advantage of. And because it's quite frankly quite clear, from the Eagles' defensive line to the Seahawks' defensive line, the Lions' defense is nowhere close to elite, but at least you know the pathway. Defense wins championships. Your scoring defense is nowhere near in the, you know, being that they're ranked in the 20s. It's not good enough. And I think that's the biggest lesson I took away is if you can add some more talent to the defense and hit, now you have a chance. I mean, because can you say that Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal are at the same level of Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence? There you go. It's easy. You know, add some talent and maybe look away from your own guys. Look at guys that have been proven and find affordable guys that you can find in free agency that are going to come in here and ball and pressure the quarterback. Drake May was running for his life on Sunday, cuz.
Yeah, look, as far as the Super Bowl goes as a whole, and include this the halftime show.
Did you nap? Did you nap through at any point?
Dude, I didn't actually catch up with the Super Bowl real time until the fourth quarter. We've had stuff going on with the baby. Baby's got RSV and just different things going on with the kiddo. So I didn't actually get to sit down to watch the Super Bowl until the fourth quarter. Had to go back and watch all of it on delay because, you know, we DVR everything around here. But as a whole, the Super Bowl, the game itself, wet fart, right? It wasn't like it was a fun game to watch. It was a struggle. Yes, the fourth quarter picked up, but really and truly, this game was tough. And you and I both like defensive football, and that's fine. But there was really nothing that was a highlight unless you're rooting for team kicker. That's kind of what got you through at least the halftime. Then you get to the halftime show, and look, I didn't have a problem with the halftime show. I don't understand why the halftime show had to be so politicized. That didn't make sense to me. The halftime shows regularly are not very good.
Right.
It is really, really tough. They give you about 15 minutes for these guys to go out there and sing a large portion of their catalog. They roughly give you a minute to 2 minutes of each song, and they're going to try to get through about 10 songs, and they're going to try to do it the whole time while shooting a music video. It's a really hard thing to do. Either you liked it or you didn't like it. I don't think we needed two of them. I don't think we had to have a red or a blue one. I didn't feel it was necessary. All that being said, I was very thumbs up and very pro Bad Bunny's message. Thought that was nice. But otherwise, I had a couple of takeaways from this game. And one of them is exactly what you said. Defense needs to be a priority for the Detroit Lions going forward. This next year, they need to figure out a way to somehow make this defense better, make this defense more of an asset, less of a liability, right? It feels as though they spend so much money on offense, and they focus on so many of the toys for Jared Goff and for whoever the offensive coordinators are. They don't spend enough time really getting the toys for defense. They essentially say, hey, you've got Aiden Hutchinson, you've got Brian Branch, who doesn't have an Achilles, and you've got Kirby Joseph, who has no knees. Make it work. And that's kind of what they do. Then they try to piecemeal it all together. Like you said, with Josh Paschal, Marcus Davenport, anybody else who is aging and basically has 1 foot out the league, they're trying to bring in and repurpose and refurbish them. And it doesn't work. You see what happens when you have an elite defensive front and you have a secondary who can take advantage. It's absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Which leads me to my next point. You can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. You just witnessed Sam Darnold do it. You can do it with Jared Goff. For everybody who says that you can't win with Jared Goff, you can do it with Jared Goff. Again, there's a recipe. You have to follow the recipe. It almost has to be verbatim. Build the defense. Give him some toys. And then roll everything out there and try to take advantage of your window. Here's the thing. The Detroit Lions window was probably 2 or 3 seasons ago. Yeah. And Brad Holmes wanted to stick to his cue cards and didn't want to make an adjustment and basically told you, I don't believe in a window. Well, you see what happens. Your window is now closed. You've got to figure out a way now to pry that open and try to adjust things on the fly. I think that's going to be what Brad Holmes is going to do, but it remains to be seen. Offseason's just getting underway for the NFL, but I believe firmly you can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, which brings me to my next point, which is the other quarterback in this game, and that was Drake May. The entire week leading up to the Super Bowl, all you heard about is Drake May, Tom Brady comparisons. Look, Drake May is not the second coming of Tom Brady. He should never be mentioned in the same stratosphere as Tom Brady until he actually goes out there and wins something. The fact that this guy was as close as he was in the MVP voting is asinine to me. Drake May showed nothing in these playoffs except that he is completely wet behind the ears and that he is a young quarterback not ready for the spotlight, and his offensive line was not good enough. Not good enough at all. Drake May is closer to Sam Darnold than he will ever be closer to Tom Brady. Put it down right now. I know he's young. I know it's only his second year in the league. Drake May will never be Tom Brady. Drake May will be closer to Sam Darnold than he will ever be closer to Tom Brady. That's it. That's what that is. The fact that they spent an entire week telling you about how he's going to become the next Tom Brady made me want to just swallow pills and drink bleach. I was like, you guys are not watching the same games I've watched. Like, I don't understand how you could come to this conclusion. So it was absolutely frustrating for me to have to listen to that for an entire week. And then you go and you watch that game and legit, he was under duress the entire time, but he was a bit of a turnover machine. And it wasn't until they allowed him to start to kind of run around a little bit that he did get comfortable. So maybe that's on the coaching. Maybe that's a little bit on him. I don't know. But he's not Tom Brady. Please do not compare him to Tom Brady. It does a total disservice to Tom Brady. And honestly, those are unfair expectations to heap on a young quarterback. Just don't do it. Closer to Sam Darnold in my book going forward. Speaking of going forward, my last point that I took out of the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots are going to be a problem. New England Patriots are going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem for a long time. Mike Vrabel is a hell of a coach. I know he had some faux pas in this game, but Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach. You were able to get to the Super Bowl. You have a young quarterback who you're going to try to develop. You're going to try to put him in a position where he can take advantage. Obviously, that offensive line needs to be addressed. They have a very good defense, and that defense is what carried them into the Super Bowl. If you can address that offensive line and you can add a couple of weapons and you can keep your quarterback upright, I think you'll be in a really, really good spot, and you're going to be a headache for everybody in the AFC. And if the Detroit Lions are lucky enough to get there, you're going to be a headache for the Detroit Lions. The New England Patriots will be a problem going forward for at least the next 5 years. Yeah. And look, those were the major points that I took out of this. I felt like this was a Super Bowl that you could watch, and as you're watching it, if you're a Lions fan, you're just kind of kicking yourself in the ass because you're like, they need to do that. Yeah. They could be here. They could be doing this. Why is this now going to be our headache if we ever get there and we have to face New England? I felt like there was so much that really tied into the Detroit Lions with the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and here's what bothers me is that, okay, Seattle, Mike McDonald in his first year with his quarterback, and they spent, if you go and look at 2025 free agency spending, New England number 1, Seahawks number 4. And that's just what it was, is that they had an affordable quarterback. And so I want to go back to this. What bothered me the most is to take that, we can win with Jared Goff. Yeah, double the price. So there's a tried and true formula, and it seems like the Lions want to do it their way. And I get it, but you see formulas that work. Opportunity to spend properly in free agency, be aggressive, and an innovative coach with an affordable quarterback and picking the right talent does it all. And look at the Seahawks. They used the entire formula. In 23, they got Witherspoon, a cornerstone piece. They got an offensive lineman. They traded away a bum in Russell Wilson. They got additional draft capital. They were aggressive in free agency this year. And then they made one key trade at the deadline for Shaheed, a key contributor. That's the entire formula right there with a winner. Now, I'm not saying it's an exact correlation. That's where people get all bogged down. It's not an exact correlation that if you have a good free agency, you draft well, you make a trade, and everything's going to happen. No, it's not direct, but it gives you a better chance than what you're doing. And so
there's a blueprint. You just kind of have to follow the blueprint. That's all.
And try to follow it. Yeah. You can't be, the Lions were 21st in spending, and you can't spend it on your own guys. Why didn't the Lions get DeMarcus Lawrence and Milton Williams and Leonard Williams and add talent and Harold Landry? See what I'm saying here is that your window.
These were guys that we were calling for in the offseason. Yeah. They did none of this.
Your window lined up in 23, and when it was time to make the move, you added a wide receiver that, I truly believe that he would tell me now that he would say, we thought that Donovan Peoples-Jones would be the final piece to the puzzle. When everybody was saying, get Chase Young, get this guy, get that guy. It's like, come on, dude. And so I get mad because the Lions are doing things in a way that's, one, would be historic, because now this is going to be year 6 with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. It would behoove you maybe to go out and get a defensive guru that can come out and actually repair the defense. And you could maybe do it in the next 2 years. But here's the problem. You go out and you give Kirby Joseph a massive contract. You didn't have to. You get 4 years with these guys. You don't have to pay them a year early. And I know it helps you for the year that you're in by lowering cap numbers. I get it. But you didn't have to pay Kirby Joseph. You didn't have to pay J-Mo.
You're not spending anything on a free agent. What the hell does it matter what your cap numbers are? They haven't spent any money on a free agent in forever and a day.
You don't have to make all these moves. And now they're going to pay.
You're right.
They're going to pay Jahmyr Gibbs $20 million. And so you didn't have to make some of these moves. And unfortunately, when you say, well, yeah, Jared Goff can win a Super Bowl. Well, I'm telling you, you can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback much less than paying a guy $50 million when you can go out and allocate resources to a defense. It's not just everybody wants to wave their magic wand and say, okay, we're going to fix the offensive line, we're going to fix the defensive line, and we're going to have 2 safeties and 2 linebackers, and we're going to improve everything in one offseason. You're asking Brad Holmes to be a miracle worker. And so what we're saying is, if you follow the what bothers me the most is now good teams with good general managers have won a Super Bowl, had a decade or more of futility, rebuilt fast, and won before you even got there. That frustrates me because I would say if you don't win in 26, 27, you tear it down, new coach, rookie quarterback, invest heavily in the defense, and let's take a swing at it. And again, everyone is just, the Lions sold everyone a bill of goods except us. We told you, sustained success only happens in this league if you have the best quarterback. And what people fail to realize, and I think you're going to understand this quite quickly, if you don't repair your offensive line, when you go to a Super Bowl, Jared Goff is going to look like Drake May.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to be rattled. That's what everyone's going to say to their players is, if you do this to Jared Goff, this is what he'll look like. And it'll be him falling down, dropping the football, making mistakes, not doing things. That's where an athletic quarterback would help a little bit. Sam Darnold is not a mobile quarterback, but he's somewhat athletic and got a little better at evading some pressure, and he made the key throw when needed. But guess what? Sam Darnold sucked in this game. He basically got carried to a Super Bowl, but he had a performance in the NFC Championship game, so you give him his flowers, but you're only spending $35 million for the guy, and that allowed you to spend over $100 million in free agency.
Here's the thing. I know the price for Jared Goff is the real sticking point for you. You, as well as I, have to believe that they're going to restructure that contract.
But that makes it worse.
Money around.
That makes it worse.
It makes you hold on to him for additional years. So you're stuck with him. He's not going anywhere. But I think that was always the plan. I think that was always Brad's plan, was to be stuck with Jared Goff.
Yeah.
I think his whole thing was, if it doesn't work with Jared Goff,
I'm going down the ship.
It's not going to work. Yeah, exactly.
And
which might be the biggest undoing in all of it, which might be the biggest problem with all of it.
Exactly, is that the quarterback position, if you choose wrong, because we've been watching the same quarterback for 15 years, throughout the entire length of this whole podcast, we've seen the statue quarterback. And yeah, you can win one like Matthew Stafford did, but I was told that you're not spending in free agency because you want to have sustained success. But guess what? Here's the coded message that they're not saying within that. What does sustained success mean? They call getting to the playoffs every year sustained success. You know what I mean? And I looked at it as completely different. Sustained success to me means become the Chiefs and win 2 Super Bowls out of 3 and make deep runs and get very far. And I think that's where these teams in Detroit are pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, where we're not asking the direct question, well, what does sustained success mean to you? Does that mean 3 championships in 4 years? Or does that mean, hey, get to the playoffs, make a run, fall back in different rounds, and just make it every year? I think that's what they really mean. And that's not what nobody wants here. We want to have a football team that is able to make multiple cracks at it. But guess what? With the injuries and the bad luck and the poor drafts and the decisions made in free agency, guess what we got? We got a big, fat regression. And that's where I get pissed off, is that you and I said this 3 years ago. Wait a minute, if you're not as aggressive in free agency, you're not good enough. Why are you taking all these projects? Why are you taking guys that are going to be redshirted? What's going on here? And everybody's like, oh, you guys are negative, and you guys just don't understand football, and you guys are just alarmists. It's like, no. Other teams that win, we see what they do, and you're veering off of a blueprint that we think works, which is elite free agency, elite drafting, make aggressive moves at the trade deadline.
Not one that we think works, one that has been proven time and time again that does work.
Yeah, exactly. And also too, when we say, hey, focus on your defensive line, defensive end. Why do you think we're saying that? Maybe we were a little off in the radar saying spend a boatload of money, but at the same token, we've seen defensive lines that can win with a front 4. And so what do the Lions do? They play the most base defense in the league. What do the Seahawks do? They play the most nickel in the league, and they have 4, and they can drop back 7, and they have a safety that can act as a linebacker, it can blitz, and can do things. They can still stop the run and still perform at a high level. The Lions are stuck in a system, I think, that can be picked apart. And so that's what's frustrating, is that there is a blueprint. We don't think the Lions are following it, and they're going to go down the road of paying guys that you realize, man, if you pay Jahmyr Gibbs $20 million a year, you're going to have a lot of money tied up into that offense, and it just only leaves so much. Because I know everybody's going to say, well, get Njoku and get Max Crosby and get this guy and get that guy. We're saying it, but I don't have any confidence at all. I think they're going to make one splash at center or along the offensive line, and they're going to go out and get a bunch of role players. They're going to get guys that are 27 years old, coming off of injury, that you can get for $3 million, and they're hoping that those guys outlive their contract. That's the biggest problem, is they're not looking at talent purely. They're looking at value versus the contract that they have. And that's what stinks, is that I believe truly, if they would have spent and been more aggressive and pushed in 25 and 26, you might have had a chance. But that's where they're at, and they're hoping. And now you're hoping with a new offensive coordinator that it's just all magically going to go work out a second year. Because Mike McDonald had Leslie Frazier, 66 years old, all that experience. It all seems to be where you realize, okay, good teams fall into it and have an opportunity. One, to stay healthy. Two, they have talent. Remember, Kenneth Walker's a dog. He showed it at Michigan State where he was able to score 5 touchdowns. They get him and Zach Charbonnet. And so they're able to withstand Charbonnet going down, and they're still able to have Kenneth Walker run for 100 yards. So that's where I'm frustrated, is that I don't see the plan. I don't believe in the plan. I don't believe in, hey, these guys are good enough. I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. They're good enough to compete. But and the good thing is that this is where we're at today in February. I hope that some level of evolvement this year will afford the Lions an opportunity to maybe make a couple more splashes, target instant impact players in the draft, and maybe have an impactful trade deadline where you can at least compete. And it would be nice, too, because it's in SoFi. Goff can be motivated. He can finish his story in a legendary manner and maybe get the Sam Darnold treatment. So we'll see how it progresses. It's going to start in 2 weeks at the Combine. March 9th starts the tampering period, and we're going to follow it all along here at Detroit Sports Podcast. But Adam and I are in the same boat. When we watch the Super Bowl, we just left with our hands in our face going, man, it feels like the Lions might be just a little bit farther away than we all expect. But they can bridge the gap. But they got to kind of evolve their roster development strategy to target better players and figure out some way to keep these dudes healthy so that you can compete and figure this out. Because fight night in Charlotte, it's great, man. I think that when we look at the Pistons, they're still winning. They made a move. They've obviously moved on from Jaden Ivey. They believe that Dennis Jenkins, I think, is a guy that is a role player that can come in and do a lot of good things. But my goodness, Miles Bridges stirred it up. Duran stirred it up a little bit. And the escalating factor was Bridges throwing down with Isaiah Stewart, who's defending Duran. And I love the brotherhood, but I'm curious. We don't know the level of the suspension. We think it's going to be a minimum of 5 games. I hope it's not 10 because Isaiah Stewart does have a pattern. You don't want to go up against the likes of the Spurs and the Cavaliers without your dog. But listen, in the end, do you think, because it's getting talked about, and you would know, can this be a rallying cry like the Wings in McCarty, like the bad boys versus the NBA? I like it, but at the same token, I also understand the fact that, man, if we can still get the number 1 seed, it's very important. And so you don't want to have, I want to be able to fight, but I don't want to have the suspensions. God darn it. But listen, man, I got a lot of respect for Isaiah Stewart. He's the way it was described was the relationship with Duran is brotherly, and I love the fact that after the game, everybody gets everything on camera these days, and Isaiah Stewart's like, if they don't want me to come off the bench, why the F did they draft me to Detroit? And I'm like, oh my God.
Probably to play backup minutes.
Yeah,
to be a backup center.
Yeah, to be physical.
Not for you to go out there
and
act like Rambo.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at it with the Pistons, what did you make of the brawl and where the Pistons are at right now? Because it's interesting because we will talk about it. I feel like, like we said, they're going to have an opportunity to see as constructed what they're able to do. But I do feel like they might have wasted a chance to stamp their ability to win a title. But hey, I think I think this can be a rallying cry that maybe can overcome the fact that you didn't get a shooter, a real dog at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is going to help you get over whatever those talents inequities are, right?
Right.
Like they did nothing at the trade deadline. The guy they brought in had 2 back-to-back down years as far as shooting goes, and since he's come onto the Pistons, he hasn't really provided you with anything. Dennis Jenkins is probably your big trade deadline move, right? Signing him to a 2-year deal is probably your big bombastic move that you've made because he has performed and he has played well. But all that being said, Isaiah Stewart, I think, could be more of a liability and less of an asset when we get to the playoffs, right? Like this is going to be the tenor of this conversation today, I guess. Look, I get what you're saying. Can this be a rallying cry? Can this be something that pulls these guys even closer together because they seem incredibly close knit? Is this something that can pull them together and help bond them even more? Yes, it can do that. Does this become the thing that really helps galvanize this locker room that is already really, really tight? Sure. All that being said, you're losing an all-star in Jalen Duren. You're losing his backup in Isaiah Stewart, and you're losing pieces when you don't need to be losing pieces. Your schedule gets a little bit tough in and around the All-Star break. So you losing these guys to suspensions is going to really make things difficult for you. And last I checked, they had a 4, maybe a 5-game lead on that first place seed. So like you don't really want to be giving up any room, especially after Cleveland went out, made a major move, after Boston went out, made a major move. All the teams that are chasing you went out and made major moves, and you didn't really do anything. You kind of sat on your hands, and you're like, we're going to keep everything stat quo. We're going to keep everything the same. And now you've got guys that are going to be riding the pine because they're not going to be able to play. Look, would I be surprised if Isaiah Stewart's suspension was 10 games? No. Would I be surprised if it was 5 games? No. Do I think it's going to be somewhere between 5 and 10 games? Absolutely, I do. The fact that he came off the bench to sit there and chase a guy down and try to fight with him, that's the big problem. It's not so much the fisticuffs, the bumping into each other, the bumping of the gums. It's not even any of that. It's the fact of where he came. He wasn't included in the play. He came from off the bench and chased a guy down. That's the issue, and that's going to be the thing that's going to get him slapped even harder on the wrist. And at this moment in time, like I said, you don't need to be losing guys. Like Isaiah Stewart is what? Maybe the 7th guy on this roster. He's like the 7th guy in the rotation. You don't want to lose that, especially because the way they play is a very physical, dominating. We're going to lean on you. We're going to make you tired, and we're going to take advantage of you late in games. Like you need to be in condition, and you need to keep your wits about you when you play us, because the way we play is up in your chest, and we're causing you to get worked up. He's the guy who does that and is the epitome of that. He is part of that fabric, the identity of this team, and now he's going to be sidelined for multiple games. On top of that, Jalen Duren is putting together a really nice season. He's a very important part of this team, both offensively and defensively. And now he's going to be on the sideline. Now, it won't be for 5 or 10 games, but he's going to miss a couple of games. He's going to be out of action.
Right.
So this team and these theatrics, I don't mind the way you play. I love the way the Detroit Pistons play. I think it bodes well for them. The big issue is when you get other teams worked up, get other teams riled up, you need to just back up. Just get out the way. Let these guys get the penalties. Let these guys get the fouls. Let these guys get teed up. Let these guys get kicked out and suspended. You don't need to get involved. Your job is to get in there, stir the pot, and then just back up with your hands up like, I don't know why he's so upset. Not my fault. I just grabbed his nutsack and twisted it a little bit. I don't know why he's so mad. It's not my fault that I pinched him on the back. I don't know why he's so mad. It's not my fault that I elbowed him a little bit and he's all worked up. I don't know why he's so upset. Not my fault that I tugged on him a little bit and got him all riled. Like that's the way you play, and it's fine. I love it. If you've played sports before, there's generally one guy on your team who plays like that, and either you love it or you hate it. In this case, you have a whole team of guys like this, and I love it. I think it's great, and it works really, really well. But it has its drawbacks. It has its cost, and it's when guys want to throw down, all of a sudden everybody's got to put their nuts on the table and say, hey, I got bigger balls than you. Doesn't work in this case, especially when you need all hands on deck, because you didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. You didn't get better offensively. Defensively, you didn't do anything either. So you just lost 2 of your best defensive players.
You got it. Yes, you got to have the sign of maturity is to be able to walk up to that line and be aggressive, but then when it goes down, you got to walk away. You got to also understand the ramifications of your actions. So JB Bickerstaff does a good job of at least standing up for his guys, but there's got to be a little bit more discipline, especially in the playoffs, because technical fouls, ejections, suspensions. Do we not remember that Isaiah Stewart had an issue last year in the playoffs against the Knicks? And I feel like many people believe that if Isaiah Stewart was actually in the later games in that series, he would have potentially maybe helped the Pistons get over the hump. I do believe he was suspended for a game or for some fashion because of something that went down in the postseason. So it's intriguing. I love the fact that the Pistons, since our last podcast, I believe, whooped up on the Knicks the last couple games by at least, I think, a combined 70 points in 2 games. So they're whooping up on the Knicks, and I love the aggression that they're showing. And now we just got to make sure that moving forward, they didn't make the big blockbuster deal, but I think in year 2, you are afforded an opportunity to see what you got. Like, okay, let's see what you guys can do. But I don't think that I'm confident that they're going to win it all. So we'll see. But I think that moving forward, I do think that Trajan Langdon gets the benefit of the doubt because they are moving faster in their rebuild than I think maybe even they expected in regards to the level of success, being first in the East, and the evolution of Cade Cunningham. So we'll see if Trajan Langdon does eventually make that blockbuster move, because I think most people believe you're only going to do it once to sacrifice and make a push. So we'll see how it progresses moving forward. But I'm confident that at least they're going to have some fun and make a nice run in the postseason this year. And that's all you can ask for is maybe just, and that's all we asked for was just kind of get to the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, make a push beyond, win a playoff series. And I think that they're poised to do that this year. Turning our attention now, as we're talking, pitchers and catchers are reporting to Lakeland. And when we spoke, we were all down about Scott Harris. And here's what I love about teams and fans. Fans in Detroit are easy to please. All you guys wanted was one player over $30 million, and that made you happy. That made you drop your panties and be all like, yeah, Scott Harris is back. Listen, I'm going to express that I'm happy that they signed Framber Valdez, but he is coming off of a couple seasons in which it was okay, but at the same token, I go, okay, great, but where's the bat? Where's the $15 million bat that you could add? How do you solve the issue at third base? How are you better offensively? Great. Now we're going to lose games 3-2 in the playoffs. Remember, the last thing that we saw, the Tigers pitching was pretty good. You went into a series where 9th inning, 10th inning, 11th inning, 12th inning, 13th inning, 14th inning, you didn't score. So who's that bat? Are you going to tell me Max Clark and McGonigal are going to be those special bats that everybody's going to evolve? And that's going to be your opportunity to grow. So we'll see. Listen, more. My attitude has always been more. Listen, I'm happy that they're spending the most in the division. I'm happy it's their biggest payroll they've ever had. But at the same token, I think that's the floor of what we would expect from Scott Harris. First, kudos to you for doing it. You have familiarity, obviously, with the manager, having managed him before. Great. He's got, you committed the most money to a left-handed pitcher. Great. But at the same token, I'm always of the opinion, I'm not going to sit here and crown Scott Harris as a master guy because he kind of has that smartest guy in the room. And I'm always looking for an opportunity to plug up some holes. And also, too, I think that you were okay in pitching, but it kind of shows you that maybe there's not as much confidence in, obviously, you had a young pitcher in Job that's coming back from an injury. You have other guys, Reese Olson. So obviously you felt like you needed more of an investment. So that's a hole. So to me, I would have said, okay, if you had $38 million a year to spend, dude, that's 3 guys making $12 million or maybe 4. Sprinkle it up a little bit. That's 4 guys that you could potentially add that can be impact, a third baseman, a reliever, a starter, maybe just a little bit of a lower caliber. So to me, I think that the value of one great pitcher who pitches every 5 days might not be as great as 3 awesome bats that you could have brought here. That's just my opinion. But first and foremost, credit to Scott Harris. This has nothing to do with arbitration. They were in on this player throughout the offseason. Obviously, there's a tie, and they're going with defense. They're going with pitching wins in the postseason, and they're trying to tighten the ship. And there's also an opportunity to make a push if you're winning games and you're at the deadline and you can make some moves. So I'm okay with it, but I'm not as thrilled. Like, I'm not going to just completely change the Scott Harris narrative because, first of all, that's a huge demerit when you have a trade deadline and you have a good team and you made the team worse. That's like walking into a final when you're a B student and going, all right, all you need is a 60 to pass, and you get a 4. You're like, dude, all you needed was a 60. You need just to add a couple pieces and you could have maybe made a deeper run. And he's like, no, guys. We're going to get you guys in the late 30s. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, oh, no. We have these guys that we thought, we didn't really think that we were going to count on them. Well, then why the hell the trade deadline is to add and upgrade your team. And by the time the playoffs started, a couple of the guys were not even on the roster. Yep. So I look at it like, first of all, clap for Scott Harris. He did something. But I'm of the opinion I'm not easily pleased with just one move when you could say, okay, you could take that same allocation and actually address your biggest weakness. And I don't think that they view it that way. They say, well, change your philosophy. No, man, it's not philosophy. In baseball, it's about talent. See ball, hit ball. And in the playoffs, you got to be able to battle the opposing pitchers and have some good at-bats. So we'll see if this move comes to fruition to help them get to the World Series. But at the same token, I'm not like, wow, Scott Harris is now the first guy to take a stand. Oh, wow. So you just took one contract and all the narratives changed? Come on, guys. This is a guy in his 30s. You know what I mean? I would have said, wait a minute. And it also does look a little unusual for Tarek Skubal. But the one thing that is crazy to think about is, and because I'm sure you know this too, divorce attorneys, people think, oh man, these attorneys, they hate each other. They battle in court. They're slinging mud at each other. They just absolutely hate each other's guts. This one attorney's calling this one guy a pompous ass in the courtroom. And then the next minute, this guy's slinging mud about this guy's tactics. And then you realize that they battle and yell at each other in court. And then afterwards, they're just having a whiskey and a cigar in the same building, having a laugh. So to me, when you find out that Scott Boras is the agent of Framber, you realize that every case is different. Framber Valdez gets paid, and he realizes, okay, that might help my client, and it's not as embarrassing because I think Scott Harris, when he goes home, he's not cussing out Scott. He's not cussing out Scott Boras. He's like, that MFer is trying to clown us and do this, and it's just strictly business. And I think we as fans get a little more emotional about it than we think, well, look what Scott Boras is doing, and Scott Harris must hate him. Listen, Tariq Skubal got $32 million. He's happy. And in the end, he knows if he balls out, he'll make his money. And Scott Boras is just doing the job that he's intended to do, which is, hey, I want to make my client money, and I'm not trying to make $115 million with 2-year outs. I'm trying to make $400 million. So I don't care what the Tigers are saying. So I look at it like, you know what? I think that Tariq Skubal has pitched his last season in Detroit, and I expect that someone will give him a nice $300 to $400 million contract. I'm kind of accepting it at this point. How did you view the relation with Tariq Skubal in this signing? And did my point make sense in regards to, yeah, Scott Harris did good, but it's not like we're gonna celebrate here and crown him.
As you were talking, I was reminded of that meme, the stick figure with the stick, and he's pointing to something saying, do something. Yeah. And at the bottom of the stick, it's Scott Harris. It's like, just do something, do anything. So he went out and he did something. He signed another left-handed pitcher for $38.3 million, which is kind of nuts because that all came down just before Skubal got his $32 million. So you've got, two pitchers making over $70 million next season? How did your offense get any better? Please tell me, because if I go back and I look at the playoffs, it was the offense that didn't show up. You didn't have anybody who could hit in the middle of that lineup. So we're counting on all the young guys taking progressive steps forward to get better offensively, which you and I both know that doesn't usually how that works out. It's sometimes success is not linear. Sometimes it does not go on the upward trajectory. A lot of times it's taking steps back to then recalibrate and then move forward. So all that being said, I like that they went out and they did something. I like that they bolstered the pitching staff. Now, here's the deal. The guy that you're bringing in, Framber Valdez, this is a guy who he's an innings eater. He's a guy who basically likes to pitch to contact, which works well in Comerica. But he's also a bit of a hothead. He's a guy who last season didn't like a call that his catcher made, and he basically threw at his dick and hit him in the nuts in the middle of a baseball game.
Right.
So you got a guy who sometimes is a little bit too emotional. And that could not bode well in that locker room. It made things messy in Houston, some of his antics. So you now have to deal with some of that. But all of that being said, I hope the Tigers aren't done, because I still need to see a piece added to that offense. Like, I'm happy that we've got arguably the best pitcher in baseball, and I'm happy that we have another innings eating left arm pitcher. But I mean, when we look at it from the right side, Jack Flaherty isn't healthy hardly ever, and like, he'll give you a stretch of 2 or 3 months, and then he's banged up again, and there's no guarantee that Reese Olson's coming back. I'm not sure what Casey Mize is going to be next year. I was very happy with what he gave us last year, but I don't know if he's going to be the same guy this year or better. And then offensively, like we said, you are counting on a lot of young guys being able to find lightning in a bottle, being able to take giant leaps forward, with young guys, it doesn't always work like that. It doesn't always pan out that way. You can look at a guy like Torkelson, right? Like Torkelson was a guy who was supposed to come in, he's supposed to be able to hit the shit out of the baseball, and he was supposed to be able to drive runs in. And he did that for stretches, and then he would be a strikeout king, and then he was sent down to the minors, then he was brought back up, and things were good for stretches, and then he would go into these slumps, and then he would get hot for a stretch here or there, and then he would slump again. And that's generally how it is with young players. It's this very much a roller coaster ride. So if you're telling me we're going all in now, like the signing of Valdez was the them waving the flag saying, "Hey guys, we're going all in. Scooble's getting paid. We're paying this guy." Well, I still need to see more. I still need to see you guys go out and get a legitimate bat to put in the middle of this lineup, because when I look at the roster up and down, you don't have that piece. You don't have that guy who makes me say, "Oh man, you don't want to go face that. You don't want to run up to that guy in the ninth inning when you've got runners on base and everything's on the line." They don't have that. And I'm not saying that they're not going to have that with some of these young guys, but it doesn't work out that way all the time. You don't get to strike lightning in a bottle. And I feel like the Detroit Tigers, the past 2 seasons, have kind of done that. This was a team that was completely out of the playoffs, got hot, got into the playoffs, and made some noise. They followed that up the next year by keeping momentum going from that regular season the previous year, and they built up such a lead that when they faltered heading up to the playoffs, they were still able to back in. And then they got into the playoffs, and they made some noise. But what was their undoing? It was not having timely hitting. And you haven't done anything to address that. So, Scott Harris, I'm still saying do something. I'm still poking you with the stick saying our offense needs help. Go do something. And if you get a bat, I think it all starts to make a little bit more sense. But right now, it's got me looking at you, John, saying, what the hell's going on? We've got $70 million wrapped up in 2 guys in the pitching staff, and we've got a bunch of young kids playing in the field. I don't know how this works out.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. How it works out in the long run, I do think it's going to be successful. I think you have a team that can make the postseason, and you just got to hope that you get hot at the right time and some of those bats evolve. Like, okay, you hope that, I don't know, Torkelson and Green figure it out. You hope that they evolve another year, and you hope that one of the two, in Clark and McGonigal, if they make the team, have an opportunity to evolve by the time September hits and they can make some clutch hits. And then you can add another bat too at the deadline. So we'll see if the deadline, maybe we'll put it out there now, deadline bat, deadline bat, so that people can understand that upgrades can potentially still happen throughout the course of the season. So now, cuz, let's see if you can follow this. Okay, everybody, get your pens out. If you want to watch the Detroit Tigers on television today, you got to have ESPN. Now, you have to have the ESPN Unlimited plan. If you are already a subscriber, you get a discount. The discount is $15. You get it for $135. But if you don't have ESPN and you're not an MLB subscriber, then you got to pay $150. But you got to also have a free trial to ESPN, and then you got to cancel it. So it's complicated, but not complicated, and it's stupid. and so remember that you have to have this and that and do X, Y, and Z. I looked at that, and I said, and I made a joke at the Super Bowl. I said, I think I need a commercial to figure it out. I think I understand it, but now there's a caveat that I'm in that's different. In that, because these, and here's how stupid now streaming is. Let's say you have a streamer and you have Amazon. Well, within Amazon, you can buy Paramount and this and that. They're like they're all commingling. It's like this cesspool of slutty commingling among these streamers. It's like, okay, well, I'm in a position where I get ESPN Plus Unlimited, but I get it through Fubo. So there's no explanation of, okay, well, then do I still got to go through Fubo, ESPN Plus? Then I get it. It's like, come on. Like, I just feel like these streamers are making it so stupid. Could you imagine you go to McDonald's and they're like, well, in order for you to get the hamburger here, you actually have to go to our other office on Grossbeck and you can go get it. But it's McDonald's. No, yeah, but you have to actually go somewhere else to get it. It's featured, but you have an option to get something else. If you want this, you get to go here. And if you want the double burger that's new, you got to go to the Sterling Heights. You're like, wait a minute. Why don't all the McDonald's have all the stuff? So it's stupid because everybody's doing this thing where you have the product, and then instead of just having MLB app and you just go buy it and it's a cost, no, then they got to license it to somebody else. So now everybody's housing their shit somewhere else as opposed to just being the owner. And it's like this stupid ass way of doing things that's so complicated and stupid. It's just pissing off. So I'm with you, cuz I'm gonna find a way to steal it. Allegedly find a way to watch it in an alternative manner. I'm not paying for it. I usually do get everything, but if you're going to do this, the customer's unhappy. I'm not willing to, because it's the same thing applies to ESPN Unlimited. I get it through Fubo. It's there. But at the same token, could you imagine? I'm so happy. At least the benefit is now Paramount Plus, you get the UFC for the price of $10 a month. It's amazing. It's so worth it. But of course, you can't stream the entire replay. You got to watch every match separate. There's some drawbacks. But at the same token, if MLB is going to do this to make it so complicated where I can't find it, you ain't getting my 135, you ain't getting my 150, and I'm just not doing it. It's just too much. I'll listen to the radio. I'll enjoy it with a glass of whiskey, and my mental imagination is how I will watch baseball this year. Screw you, MLB. You got to make this shit easier. You got to make this stuff user-friendly. But I will say this, I did, the timing did work out. I was a paying member of FanDuel Sports Network as of February 22nd. I saved $122 there. So woohoo, we're on the saving track of cutting out some of these services. And the first time I ever cut a service will be FanDuel Sports. And I don't need it. Listen, I can watch hockey in a different manner. I can listen to it. I can do a lot of different things. It's just too much. And for Major League Baseball, get your shit together. Make shit easier for your paying customers. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSCROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for your continued support. We're having a lot of fun at Detroit Podcast, telling jokes, making noise, talking crap, and having a good time following Detroit sports. Thanks for letting us be a small part of the Detroit sports community. And we appreciate everyone listening, and I can't wait for next week when we fire it up as we talk now about the Lions offseason. It's about to kick off. Can't wait to fire up the next episode of Doc and Jock, which is featured on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.